We are rolling through the program. Lots of people want to weigh in on the Big Ten, which released a letter yesterday afternoon trying to make sense of what is a fundamentally illogical decision. Here is quickly my analysis of what I believe to be true. I think the Big Ten is lying. And by the way, 877-996-6369. Here are 3 big points that I opened up the show talking about. First, the Big Ten has an obligation, I believe, since 13 of its 14 schools are state institutions, which are primarily taxpayer-funded. All of the presidents and chancellors of the state institutions, that's the University of Michigan, Iowa, Nebraska, Penn State, Michigan State, everybody but Northwestern, they have an obligation, I believe, to make their vote on whether or not to cancel fall sports public. Everyone should be able to know what the presidents and the chancellors are voting. It doesn't make any sense for the Big Ten to be saying we can't play safely sports in October, November, or December, but outdoors, but we're suddenly going to feel comfortable playing football indoors in January. If it's not safe in October, why is it going to be safe in January? None of the logic adds up here. Finally, the Big Ten Commissioner, Kevin Warren, he has a son that is going to be playing college football in the SEC at Mississippi State. If it's not safe for any of the sons and daughters of Big Ten scholarship athletes to play this fall, how in the world can Kevin Warren's own son be playing and Kevin Warren be okay with it? You have to, if you are the Big Ten commissioner, live your life publicly the same way that you're asking everybody else to live. This, to me, is a big failure by the Big Ten. It's a failure of communication. But more importantly, I think it's just a lie. I don't buy any of the logic here. Again, if it's not safe for your athletes, then why in the world are tens of thousands of people on campuses? And why in the world are intramural sports freaking happening? And why in the world would it suddenly be safe for your athletes in January to play indoor football, but it's not safe to play outdoor football in October? If anything, cold and flu season is much more likely to be a danger to you come the winter than it is in the fall. All right, a lot of you want to weigh in. We got Buzz in Texas on the Outkick VIP line. Buzz, what you got for me?
Hey, Clay, how you doing, man? Longtime fan ever since Dixieland Delight, bud.
Hey, I appreciate that.
No worries. I'm just curious, does Nebraska or any of the teams have a legal standing to leave the Big Ten since they're refusing to let them play football right now, and they would lose the money from a college football championship if, say, Ohio State wins? Anything like that?
Thanks for being a VIP. Thanks for giving us a call, too. I said on the show a couple of days ago I would file a lawsuit over this cancellation procedure if I were someone involved in state government in many of these places where fans are furious the season isn't happening. For instance, if I lived in Nebraska, I would file a lawsuit. I think there are multiple angles you could file the lawsuit on. First of all, there have to be regulations governing Big Ten decision-making. Is it permissible to cancel a college football season without holding a formal vote of the presidents and the chancellors? What is the protocol that is in place that governs the cancellation of a Big Ten college football season? Secondly, I think that, again, the fact that this is not a public vote could violate some state laws involving state institutions. If I am, and I'm just using Nebraska as an example because clearly Nebraska was very unhappy. If I am someone in Nebraska or Iowa or let's say Ohio or Pennsylvania or any of these other states that were upset about the shutting down of the season, I would look at all the state statutes governing the way universities are led and ask the question, does this comport, the way that the Big Ten season was canceled, does it comport with our open meeting state laws that govern the way that our taxpayer-funded institutions are required to behave. I think there's probably a way to sue. Finally, I think there's a player lawsuit that is possible. Again, I'm not putting my lawyer hat on and saying they're going to win, but think about the economic loss that a player like Justin Fields at Ohio State would have as a result of this season not happening. Justin Fields he might win the Heisman Trophy if the season happened and Ohio State was able to play. That's not a crazy idea. Think about the millions of dollars that he stands to lose potentially because this season doesn't go on. Going south. What about Joe Burrow? Joe Burrow came out and said this, but think about all of the college athletes out there that are planning on having great senior seasons or great junior seasons that's going to allow them to become NFL players. And suddenly you are taking away their right in an arbitrary and capricious manner to play your season while other college athletes are getting the opportunity to have their season. Imagine there's probably a kid right now in the Big Ten who would have come out and had an incredible season and ended up a first-round pick, and none of us know his name right now. That happens every year. Joe Burrow last year is a great example. Guy might not have gotten drafted if he had been a senior and not gotten to play his last season. And now Joe Burrow ends up the number 1 overall draft pick. He makes $40 million. I think there are a lot of avenues by which a lawsuit could be filed challenging the decision made by Kevin Warren and the Big Ten presidents and chancellors. And in fact, I would be exploring filing those lawsuits if I were someone in a position of prominence in some of those states where people are fired up. I mean, just think about Iowa, for example. I keep using the state of Iowa for an example because I think it's so utterly fascinating. All high school football is being played in Iowa, and Iowa State is playing. How can you argue that it's unsafe to play college football at the University of Iowa when students, I believe, are going to be on campus, and when Iowa State is happening, and when high school football is happening? Literally in the state of Iowa, you can't argue to me that it's not arbitrary and capricious that the Iowa Hawkeyes are not allowed to play and Iowa State is, and all of the high schools are playing. Look at the state of Ohio. If I'm an Ohio State Buckeye fan, Cincinnati Bearcats are playing college football this season. All of the high school sports are taking place in the state of Ohio. The Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns are playing. How in the world is it possible that Ohio State, which is probably the team that unites the most people in the state of Ohio, is not allowed to play when high school football is going on, when college football with the Bearcats is going on, and when the Bengals and the Browns are both playing? It just doesn't make any sense to me. It's logically absurd, the arguments that the Big Ten is making. I think they're lying to all of us. I really do. We got a bunch of people who want to weigh in on the phone lines. Dub, who's up next?
Yeah, we got William in North Carolina.
William, fire away.
Hey, good morning, man. I think it's pretty obvious that the Big Ten decision, as well as Pac-12's decision, is political. My wife and I always joke that if we just move the election up 2 months, we'll all get college football and college sports across the country.
Yeah.
But
I don't. I mean, that is one legitimate argument that I think you can make without having to put on a tinfoil hat. Because when I look at it and I say, why would it not be safe in October and November for the Big Ten to play college football, but it's suddenly going to be safe in January? What's changing? Well, you can argue nothing other than the election. There's not going to be a vaccine in January compared to October for college football players. They're actually playing in the more dangerous cold and flu season in January. They're wanting to play indoors as opposed to outdoors, which we all know is more dangerous than being outdoors. Like literally every single argument you can make about football, the argument to play in late September, October, November, and December is infinitely better than the argument to play in January, February, and March. The only thing that's different in January is it's after the election. And I don't want to be conspiracy guy, but that's the only thing, like the caller just said, that's the only thing I can see changing. Who's up next, Dub?
We got Kelly in North Carolina.
Kelly, you're up. What's shaking?
Hey, Clay, thanks for being the voice of reason and presenting reasonable positions that are driving the Corona bros crazy. My first point is this. I think the Big Ten's making a bad decision as well, but I think the ACC is about to do the same thing. John Swofford is retiring this year. He's in line with our Democrat governor, Governor Cooper. He wants to close down the ACC, but he knows he'll get his head lopped off. He retaliated against the people of North Carolina by pulling the ACC men and women's basketball championships out of the state because we voted that you had to have a man in a man's bathroom and a woman in a woman's bathroom. And he wants to do it. And I'm telling you, it's more likely to happen now that UNC went virtual with their campus. And if NC State or Duke does the same thing, ACC is going to be gone.
Thanks for the call. That's unfortunately could happen. I mean, and that goes to the absurdity of this, that football is political. I don't care whether you're a Democrat, whether you're a Republican, whether you're an independent. All you have to do is look at who the governors are, and that basically tells you whether or not your kids are able to play high school football in your state. If you have a Republican governor, there are 26 Republican governors. 25 of them are playing high school football, the latest that I have seen this fall. If you have a Democratic governor, 15 of the 22 are not playing this fall. When all that matters is whether you have an R or a D behind your name, how much of this is actually predicated on science as opposed to pure partisan politics? I think it's amazing how much of football is political this fall. Who's up next, Dub?
We got Kevin in Ohio.
Kevin, what do you think?
Clay, how are you?
Excellent.
Hey, this is kind of nice, man. First and foremost, I enjoy your show. When I found out you were bringing on Jason, oh my gosh, it just made my day. I turned my daughter into a Whitlock fan quite a while ago, and I'm getting her used to you. Right?
I appreciate that.
You just mentioned those governors and all that. Well, we have the freaking Karen of all governors, and that's DeWine in Ohio. I can't believe what he did. Kudos to Cincinnati Bearcats for playing, and I'm embarrassed that instead of being a man of the Midwest, we're a sissy of the coastal cities and states, and it just drives me crazy. Secondly, my daughter's turning 21 in October. I'm coming down to Nashville. She picked Nashville, and I got to find a way to meet you in Whitlock. I'll take you guys to dinner. I'll buy you a drink, your families. I love the fact that you're coaching your kids. I did it for years. You're going to love it. It's going to be the best thing you ever did, coaching your kids. So that just fuels my fire. And when you brought on Whitlock and my daughter said she wanted to go to Nashville for her 21st birthday, I have to meet you guys.
Well, thanks for the call. To give some credit to Mike DeWine, he's allowing high school football to take place in his state, which is, I know, a football crazy state in Ohio. Happy 21st birthday early to your daughter. I'm excited that we brought on Jason Whitlock, too. Things are rolling at Outkick in a great way. His columns have been just absolutely killing it. If you haven't been reading them at Outkick.com, you need to. And look, I hate to be conspiracy guy, but I think it's just all political. I think that's the only thing that makes sense here. Who's up next, Dub?
Yeah, last one here. We got Josh in Texas.
Josh, what you got for me?
Oh, man, I totally agree with you about the politics, the way you showed the numbers on the states that have Republicans and Democrats. I mean, that pretty much says a lot about them playing and not. You know, it's just, if they can go to school, they should be able to play.
Yeah, thanks for the call. Look, here's the simple argument, okay? You should allow the athletes to make a choice. The same thing that the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 12 are allowing. I understand if you don't want to play. If you're concerned about your safety, if you're concerned about what's going on with the coronavirus, then you have the right to make a sound decision in your own life. But arbitrarily saying, with no evidence to support why, that you are canceling the entire fall sporting calendar at Big Ten schools like Kevin Warren did, like the chancellors did, like the presidents did, It's indefensible by any logical reading of data. Not to mention they got all their medical data wrong and relied upon a myocarditis survey that is fundamentally flawed if you look at any of the experts that are looking at that data. Not to mention that if you can't play in October, November, and December because it's not safe, what's changing to make it safe in January? There's no logical thread there. I can't even come up with anything that's changing other than we're having an election in November. And also, the commissioner of the Big Ten himself, his own son is playing in the SEC. I mean, think about how wild this is going to be. The SEC schools are all having fans present. The commissioner of the Big Ten could be eating popcorn in Starkville, Mississippi, watching his son play football while he's shut down the entirety of the Big Ten. I mean, it is mind-boggling. Not just playing are they in the SEC, they're going to have fans present. And in the Big Ten, they're shutting it all down. There's just no logical, rational, reasonable, non-arbitrary and capricious reason that the Big Ten is shutting down. I still haven't heard one.